that they're going to be kind of the surprise Cinderella team.
Just defensively, just get incrementally better.
Everybody has lived up and failed expectations.
That's it. The box score is what the box score is. It sucks for them. That's what's going on with the San Antonio Spurs.
That's what's brewing.
Welcome to Maid Park. Richard Oliver, Andrew Broad. It's What's Brewing Sports. Andrew, episode 22. And since we're at Maid Park, our long-awaited journey to Houston, we're going to have Reid Ryan on with us. The president of the Astros will be on with us in just a few moments. And also, we're going to have the opportunity to talk to the founder, the creator, the
Godfather,
the genius behind St. Arnold Craft Beer, the oldest running craft brewery in the state of Texas. We'll have him on with us as well. You're going to want to listen to this guy. He's absolutely wonderful. By all accounts, he's got a great personality. We look forward to talking to him. But this is episode 22.
That's right.
Now, this is Disney World for me. You know this. I am a Houston Astros fan, unapologetic about this. I'm at Minute Maid Park. This is where it all happens for me.
That's right.
This is the happiest place on earth. Mickey Mouse is running around. Daffy Duck, everybody's here. This is what happens for me when I'm here. But episode 22, because we're at Minute Maid Park, forget Emmitt Smith.
Oh, you're going to throw him out the window.
Forget the Hall of Famer.
The wrong city.
The all-time NFL leading rusher. Forget that. We're at Minute Maid Park, so today is the Josh Reddick edition of What's Brewing Sports.
That's very fitting.
Very fitting.
I got to tell you, this place feels like Disney World. I mean, there's people walking around everywhere, people walking in front of the cameras. There's
oh, yeah.
You got people enjoying themselves, going to different bars, catching fly balls, apparently. I mean, it's fantastic, but it's a healthy amount of pandemonium.
It is a healthy pandemonium. Well, you know, there's excitement here at Minute Maid Park, in mostly because this team it's a really good team. Right. You see people wearing their 2017 World Series attire, obviously from a couple of years ago. The Astros make the American League Championship Series last year. This year they are loaded. I mean, they really are aiming high. I mean, obviously there's some great teams in the American League with the Yankees who are putting up 10 runs a game or whatever. The Minnesota Twins playing this great baseball. So you look at those kind of things and you think the Astros they've got their work cut out for them, but this is a great ball club, and it's about to get better. They're getting healthy. We'll talk to Reid Ryan about that here in just a few moments because the Astros have a lot of good things about to happen. They've got 6 players heading to next week's All-Star game, and including Alex Bregman in the Home Run Derby. We got, of course, Justin Verlander, who pitched last night. Garrett Cole, who pitches today as we sit here.
Look forward to
will
that.
also be there. Ryan Presley. And in the outfield, George Springer and Michael Brantley will be starting for the American League. So a lot of great things happening.
Yes, there is. And it'll be interesting. As you mentioned, we're going to have Reid on here with us in a minute. It'll be interesting to check in with Reid, as it's been several months now since we first talked with him.
Right.
And he initially gave us his prognosis for the season.
Right.
And remember, last time we spoke with him, he talked about how they were built for the marathon run of 162 games, plus the sprint being the playoffs. And here we are. We're about at the halfway mark now. And it'll be interesting to get his take on how they feel they're faring that marathon.
Right. And it's a great question, too, because the Astros have had some problems this year. Yankees and Astros have really been hit by injuries. They've had a hard time with that, trying to get guys healthy. But the guys who have stepped up, the next man up mentality for both of the franchises, has been pretty impressive to watch. And
Absolutely.
But now the Astros have Altuve back. They've got George Springer back. They'll have Carlos Correa and Almendiz Diaz and some of those guys back. Colin McHugh is back as well. So as we said, the Astros are about to kind of turn the corner to becoming even better and having the opportunity to do some very special things.
That's right. Well, I mean, you sit here in this environment and it's what do they say? It's palpable. I mean, you just can't help but fall in love with this organization just by sitting in the stadium.
Well, and what's going to be great to talk to Reid Ryan about, you talking about the stadium and this beautiful. This is the old Union Station in Houston. There used to be a train. Really, this was the train station. So a lot of that, obviously, there is the train here at the ballpark where the Astros hit a home run, the train goes across, all those kind of things happen. But here, what also is really cool about where we're sitting right now, we're in the shadow of the St. Arnold Craft Brewery sign.
That's right.
We drove by the brewery on the way into Houston. You see it right off of I-10 as you come into Houston. It's a great part of this community. But this is the old Union Station, and this is the old, they've got a beer garden feeling here.
Yeah, they really do.
They're going to be adding to that because when this first opened, this was just a wide open concourse. There was nothing here. Now this has been built, and this is part of what Reid Ryan and his staff have done, is to kind of make over Minute Maid Park to give it a little more historic feel. And Andrew, what's really right around the corner from us here is, and we'll be taking some pictures and posting some different things on Facebook, is the new Astros Hall of Fame. And it's here at Minute Maid Park. A guy named Ryan is in there as well.
That's right.
You know, some Lance Berkman, a lot of these players who have become just outstanding names from the past for the Houston Astros have all been honored as part of this Minute Maid facility. Reid Ryan's they've got some great ideas, some great things that they're trying to implement. It's going to be a lot of fun to talk to him about that.
Absolutely, and you know, it's cool because the last time we spoke with him, he spoke on behalf of what his mission statement really was, stepping into the role of president, and what he felt he could bring and what he wanted to, his vision for this stadium. And as we sit here and we take it all in, he's really done a phenomenal job. I mean, everything that, you know, you can only imagine when you talk with the guy, but when you're here presently, I mean, wow, it's really phenomenal.
And you know, we're also, we know one of the great things is we're sitting here, we feel pretty important.
That's
because
right.
one of Houston's finest is
right.
guarding our table right now, and he's big, he's mean.
That's right.
Got muscles, and the crime of it is the off surge. We spent some time speaking with him. He's protecting us, and I guess it's great because he's sober.
Right.
He's sober because he doesn't drink, and he's standing by the St. Arnold bar here.
Right.
I feel for him a little bit, not experiencing what we're getting to experience.
Sure, but in that spirit, we can impart, we can take part of that for him.
I think it's an obligation, really.
I think we should. I think we should right now.
Right now.
Right?
We're going to have a little bit
brewing.
This is St. Arnold. We are drinking. You have to visualize this, although we are taping this as well. This is the St. Arnold Lawnmower.
That's right.
Ale, very refreshing on a very hot summer day when we walked in. As I walked in, it was very hot. Andrew carrying all the equipment was probably hotter.
That seems to happen.
Yeah,
I carry the equipment. I set up the
probably
equipment.
hotter than I was. as Andrew comes in and carried the 75-pound suitcase with all the equipment in. But I was really hot. I was really hot walking in front of you.
Were you?
Yeah, breaking the breeze, keeping the breeze from coming on you. So
such is life. Such is life.
But we had a great time before just a while ago as Reid was here. He's out running errands now, going to come back and join us. But we talked to him a little bit about some of the things that were happening here at Minute Maid Park. Talked about the season, but also the operations guys were here as well.
That's right.
And they were talking about the kind of work that goes into keeping this ballpark up and running, the roof, the air conditioning, just the different complexities of operating a facility this big. Now, and it's also interesting because you and I talked, when we talked to Reid a few weeks ago, he talked about the idea that, you know, the Rangers are building their new ballpark, this new multi-billion-dollar ballpark next to the ballpark at Arlington, which was built 25 years ago in 1994. I was there. I did a radio show there the morning it was open. And so he said, listen, this ballpark is about that. Maybe a little bit younger than that.
Right.
But we can't really go to the people of Houston and say we want a new ballpark.
Right.
Because this is a great facility. It's a great compact ballpark.
It really is.
And with the things that they're doing to make this even better is pretty spectacular.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we could do an entire show just on the experience of being here alone. But why is this beer so good? Let's get Brock Wagner out here.
We'll let him tell us.
That's right, and find out what's going on with this magic elixir.
Well, we're at Minute Maid Park, my happy place. It's like Disney for me.
That's right.
It's like baseball Disney for me. Andrew brought Richard Oliver and Brock Wagner, who we've been talking about this for literally months.
That's right.
Getting you on because Reid Ryan came on with us early this year, and we wanted to talk baseball. And right off the bat, he said, look, this is What's Brewing Sports. Let me tell you a beer story. And all of a sudden, it was the Brock Wagner story. And Brock, welcome so much. We're so glad you're here with us.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
And we need to tell everybody, of course, that he is the architect, the founder, the man behind St. Arnold Beer, the original craft beer of Texas.
Well, we are Texas's oldest craft brewery. We weren't the first. We just outlasted all the others.
Is that how it works?
Selling craft beer in the 1990s in Texas was challenging. Nobody knew what it was. So.
Right. Well, so tell us about that story then. How did you guys survive that thing that nobody else could seem to get over?
Yeah, it kind of boiled down to probably a couple things. I mean, there's no great magic in brewing beer. It's just hard work. And I think we were really determined. We had a plan, and we put quality ahead of everything. And we didn't chase things. Like this sounds silly, but I wrote a mission statement in 1993 when I was working on putting the brewery together.
Right.
And it was simple. We wanted to brew and sell the best beer in Texas and create an institution that Houston and the region was proud of. And because of that, we had a very clear view of what we were about, who we were, and what we focused on. And I think doing that and focusing on the quality, and you could find me at Kroger's and H-E-B and Specs, Whole Foods, out doing samplings every Saturday, and during the week. It was just the blocking and the tackling, is to use a football illusion while talking about baseball.
Right.
That's really, I think, what separated us from everybody else.
We talked about, as we drove here to Minute Maid, we were talking about the history of beer and baseball. Now, of course, back in the day, remember the National League wouldn't let you sell beer at ballparks. It was back in the 1900s, early on.
I did not know that.
They would not. It was a big, of course, it was right after Prohibition or during Prohibition, all this kind of stuff. And it was several clubs were knocked out of the league because of their affiliation with beer.
With breweries.
With beer. But when you go back and think about Busch Beer and its affiliation with the Cardinals and the Stros with the Tigers and all the kind of different things, you guys are the ones who really are attached to the Astros now. And we were joking before we came on, talking about you being a Reds fan and how that was a little bit of an evolution for you as well. But what about the association, the importance of being part of a great product like the Astros? I mean, obviously, the standings don't matter and if it's a great product, but you've got a great product and it's actually a great product on the field as well.
Well, I've always believed that you're a fan. You're not a fair weather fan. You're a fan in the good days and the bad days. And, we were talking before a little earlier about how I grew up in Cincinnati. I grew up with the Reds, the big red machine. That was my team, and I stayed that way. And I came down. Went to college here in Houston, and I remained a Reds fan because that's what you do. You're loyal. But it was probably after being here in Houston for quite a while, sometime in the early, right around 1990, right after the Reds won the World Series in 90, that I don't know what happened, but one day I kind of woke up and I was an Astros fan. And to me, it's kind of like, I hope our customers are loyal to St. Arnold's. I will always be loyal to the Astros, no matter what the product is that they put on the field. Now, having said that, it is really fun. I think living through the 2011, 2012 teams makes being an Astros fan today so much sweeter.
It's a different type of experience.
Sure.
And now, as a Reds fan, he was growing up as a fan of the Big Red Machine. The Astros, of course, helped that along. The whole Joe Morgan.
Joe Morgan, not one of the better trades the Astros made.
Spec Gammon, who was the Astros guy who tried to... I'll tell you what, Reid Ryan never would have made the trade that they made back in the day. That's right. Cesar Geronimo and everybody, Dennis Menke. Were the days. You know what would sound good, though, Brock?
What would sound good?
St. Arnold Field.
Yeah, it would sound good.
It would sound good, wouldn't
it?
We
need to sell a little bit more beer to get there. But
how do we make that happen for you?
Yeah, I'll tell you, the Astros have been super supportive of St. Arnold's, and we've loved our involvement, and it's steadily grown over the years, and we certainly look to keep it growing. We've been involved here with this bar. It was Jamie Hildreth came up with the idea of this bar, and it was funny. I remember when he called me and said, "I have an idea. You need to come over here," and I was like, "Oh, what in the world could this be?" And he came over and he showed me this location and said, "I just imagine this being the St. Arnold bars. You've got the brick, just like the brick of the St. Arnold Brewery. You can put the logo on it, and it really is perfect. It really evokes the brewery." We've also recently gotten involved with the Corpus Hooks, and that's been a great association as well.
My hometown. So happy to hear it.
Yeah, so that way, also the Astros farm guys, when they're in AA, they can get a little taste of St. Arnold. If you want more St. Arnold, you got to make it to the show. So hopefully that'll be the incentive.
That's great. Actually,
forget about the signing bonus. We got beer for you.
Exactly.
We got some beer for you.
Exactly.
So we got our eyes on Seth Beer, though.
That's right. Who, by the way, is making his
He's
bid.
doing well. He is doing
Seth
really
Beer.
well.
Yeah.
Greatest name ever.
Yeah.
Greatest name ever.
And he knows it, too. That's what I love.
He's all over this.
Well, Brock, let me ask you, because right now, so we've seen the evolution of craft beer. As you talked about, it was a little bit rocky in the 90s. It wasn't as popular, certainly like it is today. But now that craft beer has become so popular, what in your mind makes a good craft beer? Because I can't talk to my friends about craft beer without IPAs, right? It's all about the IPA. But there's so much craft beer out there beyond the IPA. So what is it in your mind that makes a craft beer?
So, there's a couple aspects to that question. So first, to me, a true craft beer comes from an independent brewery, somebody who's not owned by any of the big breweries. And then it's all about the quality. To me, the way I judge beers, and this is true, as you alluded to, there's a huge spectrum of flavors and different styles of beer out there. There's so much more than just IPAs.
Right.
But whether you're talking about a Kolsch like our fancy lawnmower beer, or an IPA like Art Car, or one of our big barrel-aged beers like our 25th anniversary Grand Cru.
Right.
I always look for balance, and what I want people to be able to do is to drink a pint and you want another. And I'm not saying you should always have another, like in the case of our 25th anniversary Grand Cru, but when that glass is empty, I want you to be sad. Like a little kid with your bowl of ice cream. No matter how big that bowl of ice cream is, you are sad when you get to the bottom of it. And there are beers out there that I'll have a couple sips of and I'll go, ooh, that's really good. And then I get about a third of the way through and I'm like, okay, this is gonna be work to get through the rest of my this pint.
Right.
To me, that is not a beer that we will ever brew. And to me, a great craft beer, it has complexity, it has that soul to it, but it has to be balanced. And it could be light and refreshing, it could be aggressive and hoppy, it could be malty, but it's got to be balanced. And that's what makes it so that it's actually drinkable.
Sure.
I know there's been a lot of legislative discussion about craft beer, what you could do, how you could distribute it, those kind of things. How has that impacted you over the last few years? Obviously in San Antonio, Scott Metzger and Freetail Brewing were a big part of that discussion
yes, he was.
as well.
Yeah, he was very involved in that.
What does that mean for St. Arnold and what you can do moving forward?
Well, let me tell you, I wish we had the laws that exist today when we opened the brewery in 1994. That would have made it a completely different world for us. And frankly, that's the reason so many of the breweries that opened around the same time as us failed, because they didn't have the rights that exist today. But with the right to sell on-premise, which got passed in 2013, and Scott was very involved in that. Scott and I worked together on really getting that through. And then this year getting the right to sell off-premise, which that won't come into effect until September 1st. But that right to sell on-premise, that allowed us to do things like build our big beer garden that we just built. And that allows us to create a different way to experience St. Arnold, for a different way for people to discover us and come enjoy our beer, really get to see what we're about. And that helps people understand why we're different, why craft breweries are different from the big breweries. You get to meet us, you get to see sort of the soul of the company. And it's also, it's a more profitable way for small breweries to sell beer. So when you're first starting out, distribution is really challenging. That takes years and years and years to grow. But if you open the doors and you can immediately start selling beer across the bar, you can start doing a fair amount of that. That generates some cash flow that helps you keep the doors open, helps you invest in new equipment, helps you invest in quality, helps you invest in your people. So the right to sell on-premise and off-premise direct to the public really changes the economics and makes a craft brewery much more economically viable.
Sure. Well, and I want to go back to something you said earlier because I think it's fantastic. You're talking about how when you finish a beer, you want it to leave you wanting more. Whether or not you take it another is another thing, but that you want more. And certainly I have found that with St. Arnold. I got to tell you, I was on tour with the show Stomp for several years, and one of the places we went to.
That's a great show.
Yeah, thank you. One of the places we went to was Cologne.
Uh-huh.
And of course, Cologne, the birthplace of Kolsch, and,
Yep.
and it used to be that that's all you could get in Cologne.
Yes, you can
different
have
regions of
any
Germany.
style of beer you want, as long as it's Kolsch.
That's right. That's right.
Exactly.
Which
is what we want here.
That's right.
That's what we're working toward here.
Go
Well,
ahead.
so I learned. I kind of found a new appreciation for Kolsch being over there. It's really good. It goes down smooth, and I really like that lawnmower. It's so
Thank
good.
you.
But I got to ask you, now that you've said that, which one? What does it for you? Which beer or what type of beer does it for you?
So one of the nice things about owning your own brewery is I only brew beer that I want to drink. So I love all of our beers, and it depends on my mood and the temperature out and what I'm eating. If something's new, I'm probably drinking more of that. People often ask me, what's my favorite beer? And I honestly do not have a favorite. Now, if you ask me, which beer do I consume the most of? That would be Fancy Lawnmower beer.
Yeah.
It's because it's light, it's refreshing. Brewers tend to drink more of the lighter styles of beer when they're just, like at the end of the day, if you look to see what all the brewers are having as their shift beer, it's going to be summer pills, 5 o'clock pills, Fancy Lawnmower beer, sometimes Orange Show. Sometimes somebody will have a pub crawl. Very rarely will one of us have an art car. We love art car, and at home I'll drink it. I always keep a stash of art car, but it's a lot bigger, and we tend to like to drink more than one beer, and so something that's a little lower alcohol. Also, it's much more challenging to brew a really good lighter beer. Bud Light is probably technically one of the most challenging beers to make. I don't particularly enjoy drinking it, but the point is that to make a really good lighter beer, it has to be clean. You have to be technically really good at what you do to make that a great beer.
So I know you've got an appointment. We're in beautiful Houston, Texas.
That's right.
And Brock's got an appointment, you and your wife, so we don't want to keep you much longer, but we want the last thing, when you are in San Antonio, Texas, and you want to get a good lawnmower, St. Arnold lawnmower beer, where would we go?
There's a lot of great places in San Antonio to get our beer. The Flying Saucer, Hoppy Monk, they've always been incredibly supportive of us over the years. There's a lot of smaller places.
We have been supportive of the Hoppy Monk.
That's my favorite place.
Yeah, Pedro's awesome.
Yeah.
So, you can go to lots of HEBs and grab our beer. So you should be able to find us, hopefully, everywhere you go.
So we're talking world domination.
Yeah, people do ask me, where can you find, where do we distribute our beer? Texas and Louisiana. And our plan is to grow and expand and sell our beer in Texas and Louisiana. So that's our definition of world domination.
Beyond that.
Well, work for HEB.
We love what we do. We're not trying to take over the world. We want to keep developing. We want to evolve. We want to thrive. I want to create an environment where our brewers can grow and be better at what they do and learn new things. But we don't feel like we need to go national or international or anything like that to be able to do that. We can do. Texas is a huge state.
Right.
There's a lot of opportunity here, and I didn't start the brewery to make something giant and get rich or anything like that. I did it because of my love of beer, and I feel like if it gets too large, it would be like running a company as opposed to running a brewery, and that's what I want to be doing. I want to run a brewery.
But is there really a world outside Texas worth conquering anyway?
To many Texans, absolutely not.
No,
we need the Northern Plains in Canada because they supply us a lot of our malted barley.
Yeah.
We need Germany and the Czech Republic because they send us a lot of our hops.
Yes.
So we do need other things, but beyond that, no.
But ultimately, it's really all about us.
Right.
Yeah, the rest of it is just
That's right.
feed what we need.
Exactly.
That's exactly what.
Well, listen, Brock, thank you so much for coming on with us, taking
thank
time
you.
out of your day, pressing your busy schedule.
Well, you actually got me out of the home improvement project I was working on. There are people in the world who should do home improvement, and there are those who are incompetent at it. I fall into the latter category. So
listen, we bought a couple of St. Arnold's. We could buy a few more, so you could hire somebody to do the home improvement.
That's right.
I think
we're going to do our part to help you out.
I may need that.
Brock, thank you so much, my friend. It was so great to see you.
Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
We can't wait to spread the message in San Antonio.
Oh, I know.
Of this spectacular beer. Thank you.
That's
sir.
right.
All right. Cheers. Thanks.
Cheers. Thank you very much.
Well, as promised, Reid Ryan, who Reid, this is an encore for you, but now we're in your house.
That's right.
We're here at Minute Maid Park, and you know what? You brought along a few of your friends. This is a great crowd.
I did. They're here to see the podcast. Am I the first ever two-time guest of What's Brewing?
You are indeed. That's right. That's right.
The Hall of Fame. I'm going to have to go in the What's Brewing Hall of Fame. So there you go.
You're in already.
All right.
You're in already just for getting us into Minute Maid Park, and
That's right.
How did this work out? I put you in a bar, and I wanted you to kind of be in your element, halfway between the Crawford box and the St. Arnold's bar.
Well, and we need to talk a little beer with him as well. But first, I wanted to ask you. You talked about Minute Maid Park, and we had the chance to talk to you earlier this year about the things that you're doing here at the park and all those kind of different things. But the expansion of what's happening, the Hall of Fame right around the corner from us here, the Hall of Fame, the St. Arnold, what you've done here with Union Station in this Union Station area. Talk about that. What's happening at Minute Maid?
Yeah, look, we've put a lot of time and energy, and without Jim Crane putting his money into the expansion, we wouldn't have these great assets. And we realized as an organization that you have to give fans a great experience. And a great experience starts when you walk in the door. A great experience isn't just what's on the field. That's part of it. And so all of this stuff has been done to try to make sure that we have the very best stadium in baseball.
It's phenomenal. And I tell you what, we were just talking about this, but it has lived up to everything that we talked about when we had you on the phone a couple months ago. Listen, I wanted to ask real quick, just a little shop, just to talk a little shop. The last time we talked about, you mentioned about how you guys were just so excited for this season because you felt like you were ready for the marathon of the 162 games and then the sprint for afterwards. And I just want to get your temperature on how you guys are still feeling. Now we're about at the halfway mark.
Yeah, so we've led really from start of the season. We lost our lead early and caught it. And as we go into today's play, everybody's looking up at us in the division. So unless something crazy happens, we still feel like we're the team to beat in the American League West. But what we're starting to look at now is how do we match up against those elite teams?
Sure.
The Dodgers, the Brewers, Yankees, Red Sox. There's a lot of lefties in those lineups. We don't have a lot of left-handed relief pitching. We don't have a lot of left-handed starters. So those kind of questions are starting to come up. The emergence of Yordan Alvarez, folks realize now why we let some of these other players go. We really need to get Correa back healthy, and we need to get Aledmus Diaz back healthy. Those two guys were very important parts of the early part of our season, and so we got to get them back. But we still have some holes, even though we're really good. We're on pace for 100 wins.
Right.
But to be that team that wins the World Series, you got to have it tightened up, and that's what we're hoping to do before the trade deadline.
We always joke about if you're going to have injuries, if you're going to have things happen that are kind of negative, get it done early on.
That's right.
Last year, in the Red Sox series, lots of injuries there that you were dealing with that we found out about even afterwards. How limited certain players were.
Yeah.
Correa, Altuve, something like this.
Even Cole had the flu and nobody knew it, that kind of stuff.
I didn't know it till just now.
Yeah.
Look at that, I just learned something. I got here and now I know.
Well,
we broke it here first, folks.
But, we talked earlier in the season, and folks were upset that we didn't go get another big-name starter. And we talked about we liked our internal options, and we really liked Forrest Whitley out of San Antonio and Corbin Martin out of Texas A&M. Corbin came up, had a great game, then really struggled, and now has had Tommy John surgery and is done for the season. Forrest had a really rough year in AAA. We've sent him back down to West Palm Beach. He's kind of doing a reset, and we hope to get him back out to the minor leagues. It doesn't always go like you plan. We have to step up, and we have to figure out, what are we going to do internally or externally to shore up this pitching staff. And so you're seeing a lot of young guys get some opportunities, and we still think our internal options are as good as most all of the other options out there if it's not somebody that's elite and somebody that's an all-star caliber player.
We know it's a great point, and actually, in light of the recent, there's been the NBA draft, and then the whole free agency thing has been going on right now, and of course that's been crazy. And the last time we spoke, again, we talked about comparing the Astros franchise, to those upper-tier franchises like the Spurs. And when we talk about the Spurs franchise, you were just at breakfast this morning, and people were groaning about, the Spurs never do anything flashy. The Spurs never do anything for some kind of big trade. And your response is, okay, but look at the last 22 years.
Yeah, who cares?
Exactly.
Results are.
Yeah.
That's right.
We're in a results-driven business. You don't want to be the team that wins the offseason. You want to be the team that wins the postseason is what you want to be. Having said that, look, Verlander, the move was big. We don't win the World Series without him. That's a big, splashy deal. But also, we've made very subtle tweaks, and Jeff Luhnow, our general manager, has done a phenomenal job of pulling those strings and being able to make sure we get value for value. Nobody thought the Ryan Presley acquisition was much of anything, and here he is, an all-star player and dominating, had 40 plus scoreless innings. Nobody thought a couple years ago the signing of Charlie Morton was a very big deal. People were like, who is this guy? Folks are wishing we had him back because he's going to be going to the All-Star game, and he's having a healthy year. So look, we like our baseball operations people. We like the decisions they make. We've had success with them. We're not going to bat 1,000. We're not going to get them all right. But I promise you we're not going to do anything where we go all the chips in to try to win something and then have 10 years of being really bad.
Do you feel like, one of the things we talk about with the Spurs is faith equity? It's kind of a phrase that comes up about, look, they have earned the right for us to have faith in what they're going to do. In Pop we trust, and those kind of things. When you look at, if you're an Astros fan and you look at what you and Jeff and the team have put together over the last 2-3 years, just the resurgence, the evolution of this franchise, do you think you're getting to that point where you can kind of tell people, hey, you know what? Take a look at the brand, take a look at what we've done, and have a little faith in what's about to happen.
I do. I always say I think we've earned credibility in the fans' eyes, that they stick with us and they say, hey, maybe these folks actually knew what they're doing. Our plan was to have this facility, have this franchise, be positioned to where we can be one of the teams every year in the postseason. And then a lot of times you got to be healthy, you got to have things go right, you got to match up with the right team. And really since 15, we've had a winning season. We've had that opportunity. 16 we didn't make it, but we were really close. Last year, we lose to the eventual World Series champs, and I think this year we're either going to go all the way or whoever beats us is probably going to be the team that wins it. So the answer to that would be yes, but we like the pressure. We like the fans wanting to win, and in some ways I'm starting to feel as though we're becoming the Braves of the 90s, where folks sometimes don't realize how good these players are.
Right.
Because you see it every single day. I mean, there's going to be a day where we look up and people are going to say, can you believe they had George Springer and Jose Altuve and Carlos Correa and Alex Bregman and Justin Verlander and Garrett Cole and on and on and on, all on the same team, and a Yordan out. I mean, we have a really good team, and we just need to make sure we're healthy at the right time.
Yeah.
You know, so I want to talk a little bit about the beer. Can we get to the beer part now?
Let's get to the beer part.
Yeah, how is it?
The beer is outstanding, and it was funny because Brock has put his pitch forward for Seth Beer to please, be promoted.
Seth Beer is a really good player. He's going to be here before you know it. And seriously, our outfield is so stacked. When you have guys like Kyle Tucker, who's probably going to be the AAA Player of the Year, a guy like Seth Beer, Yordan Alvarez, we're trying to find spots these guys can play. We've moved Miles Straw to shortstop because we have so many outfielders. Derek Fisher is going to be a Major League All-Star. Mark my words. He will. Hopefully it'll be with us. But that's how good this guy is. And he hadn't been able to crack this roster but for a couple weeks at a time the last couple years because of how good Josh Reddick, George Springer, Michael Brantley, 4 hits last night. And then it's been fun to watch, everybody just kind of mature into really, really solid players. And especially Jake Marisnik, he's become an everyday really good player with power, and you're starting to see the quality of full baseball player he is. So we start talking about the outfield, I start getting dreamy-eyed.
He did. He got a little. You saw that in his eye.
That's right. There was a little bit of a glow.
I was like, man, we're good.
So I'd like to get back to real quick, and I know you've got a ball game to prepare for. So I know you have to start. You stretch about an hour before.
I do. I like to stretch my hammies because we had a lot pulled early in the season.
But now we're sitting in the shadow of the St. Arnold bar, and I guess you call it a bar, the St. Arnold there. And this was the old Union Station train station here in downtown Houston. And what you've done here to make it kind of a beer garden has been really impressive. The Hall of Fame is right around the corner, but there's some other beer options around Minute Maid Park. To follow up a little bit on what Andrew was talking about, the experience at Minute Maid, and I'm speaking from experience myself because this is a place I call this Disney. I'm a baseball Disney guy. This is Disney. This has become a destination beyond the baseball. You've talked about this is a place you want to come and experience a great day at the ballpark, and the baseball's a complement to that.
Well, we know it's about the baseball first, but when you have a bad game, you need to have some other stuff that people say, I still had a really good time when I was out there. And we also want to attract people that maybe aren't baseball fans, and maybe we can grow our game by getting those people in the ballpark. And so to do that, folks want local, they want craft, they want Houston, they want Texas. And so we started with St. Arnold's. This was the first one, the original craft brewer. Carbach, which is another local brewery. We have on the other side of the ballpark the Love Street Bar, kind of a smaller version of this that features all of the Carbach products. Up on our View Deck 300 level, we have a Texas craft beer bar. And then out in the outfield at the Torchy's deck, we have a big craft beer area there. And I think that's what you're seeing is it's all about individualization today in so much of our world. Same with the food options. If you go around the stadium, there's different options everywhere. We have several local restaurants on our club level. We have several kind of Texas Torchies, Pluckers. We have Shake Shack, which actually out of New York, but it's kind of got a baseball feel with being at the Met City Field. And then lots of other things, Nolan Ryan beef, Chick-fil-A. Folks want to have options, and that's what we've tried to deliver it to them. And then with our in-game entertainment, I don't know if you know, but our vice president who runs all of the in-game entertainment is Chris Garcia, who did 18 years, I think, with the Spurs.
Indeed, I didn't know
We'll
that.
go and see Chris here in a minute. We stole him away from the Spurs the year we won the World Series. Now, actually, I take that back. We stole him in 16. What was the last year the Spurs won? 16, right?
14.
Okay, so maybe he missed one of the last. Okay, and then maybe he's been here since 14, but he missed the ring the year he left.
Oh,
And so we needed a win for Chris. So in 17, he got his Astros ring, but he has the other 3 Spurs rings, so he's in good shape.
Yeah, he's got one. So he just needs that thumb.
Yeah,
this year, got to take her the thumb, basketball and everything like that.
That's right. Well, so again, let's do a little bit of a test, Reid. So the last time we talked, I think we asked you what your favorite beer was. And so now that we're here and we're all together and we're in the St. Arnold area, what is your favorite beer?
Yeah, so I'll walk you through. I'm I guess like everybody else, I kind of go to the old standbys. I'm a lawnmower guy with St. Arnold's. I do like their amber ale from time to time. I'm kind of a dark beer guy, but not too dark, and I can have one of those. With Karbach, I like their Love Street, and then also their Crawford Bach, which is really good. And
Sure.
We've got the big Crawford Bach can that everybody takes selfies with on the other side of the ballpark, so make sure you walk
really?
over
We have
there.
to do that.
Yeah, you have to go over and do that. And then actually one of my favorite beers is Fireman's 4 out of Blanco.
I love Fireman's
wonderful.
4.
Yeah,
And
well done.
I drove by there the other day, and I want to go on the tour of that one of these days, but I haven't been able to do that. So that's kind of my go-to. I'll tell you what I've really liked lately. It sounds weird, but is the Corona Familia. Have you tried that yet?
No, that sounds outstanding.
Yeah, it's kind of like a Dos Equis Amber. It's a little bit darker, and it's got the long neck, a little more taste to it than a Corona. I actually like Magic Hat.
I love Magic Hat.
Magic Hat is great. So those are kind of the flavor profiles that I like.
Okay.
I'll tell you, this is the expert
Yeah,
on
yeah,
craft
no,
beer.
no,
You're
he's-
great. Well done. Well, before we let you go, because we do have a ball game, I know opening pitch, they're not going to hold it for us. I
They
have a
will not.
feeling. They will not hold it for us. One thing I noticed, that the Ryan family in total, but you in particular, people have been coming up to you the entire time we've been here. You have been gracious and accommodating with all these fans. And I know in your position, it'd be easy to say, like, I'm going to go up in my office, I got things to do. You clearly savor the fan experience, and it's important to you. I met your son Jackson the other day, did the same thing. He came to the San Antonio to the Missions game. I saw Jackson back when he was 4 feet tall. Now he's, how tall is he now?
He's 6 foot. He's actually 5'11 and a half, and he told me that. I said, no, you
No,
go
no.
6'1", 6'2", never say 5'11 and a half.
That's
He's honest Abe, so
Yeah.
I'm like, just say 6 foot, and
Jackson,
you can look people in the eye.
Who's
Okay.
6'3". I met him the other day, 6'3". But he also very gracious with people. Some people have said to me, this is Jackson Ryan, or said to a couple of people, and he just handled it so well. Talk about that, just the relationship of, and I don't mean that you're born with a name, and I know your father was famous, and I know those different things, but you have taken obviously a joy in these people being happy and having a great experience, and knowing that they're having a chance to interact with you and tell you how happy they are with this franchise and this team.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you saying that. I have a special relationship with the fans. Growing up in the game of baseball, it sounds corny, but I tell folks, everything I have has come from people watching baseball, from the game of baseball. And so I hold the fans very dear to my heart. They supported me when I was a young kid, 26 years old, starting the Round Rock Express. They supported me in Corpus Christi with the Hooks. Everywhere my dad has gone in our family, from our time in Arlington to here, they've been very loyal to us in the way that we've lived our lives and handled the game of baseball. And I feel a responsibility. If you want to, be good at something, you have to cultivate the fan base, you have to cultivate the business. And so I'm now in a position where I actually am an influencer in the game of baseball. And things like pace of game, the extra inning rules that we're doing in the minor leagues, I think we need to bring it to the big leagues. Schedule realignment, I'm a big proponent that we need to realign, and I think we eventually need to expand. We don't need to have games on at 9 p.m. in Central Standard Time for Rangers and Astros fans. We should be playing the Cardinals, the Cubs, the Rockies, even the Diamondbacks, because it's about TV. And so I love being with the fans because they tell you what you're doing right, but they also tell you what you're doing wrong.
Right.
Now, I'm going to be honest with you, Richard, like I got to take small doses sometimes, because the time we were sitting here trying to talk, like people today with selfies, it's like autographs used to be.
Right.
They
right,
just wedge
right.
bust you, and they can't help themselves, And so I always want to make sure that I'm never short with anybody. I treat them well, that I actually have time to hear their stories. because that's what this game is about. It's
Right.
about you guys coming to the ball game today, what you talked about in the car on the way over here, what you're going to talk about when you go home, and the people you met. And so if you walk away from somebody who's telling you a very personal story about the game of baseball and a family member, or where they saw my dad play and who they went with or where they were when the World Series won, you're disrespecting them. And so I think you owe it to the fans to give them your full attention. And that's why I can hit about 4 or 5, and then I've got to go do my day job, which is take care of the Houston Astros.
And you do that well. Let me tell you, in this, just to see it, and believe me, I'm, as an old guy, seasoned guy, as I am, 40 years as a sports writer and in sports journalism, it has been wonderful to see Reid operate at that level and operate for people. And here, someone walked up just now, Reid, and just handed you a note.
How perfect
Says,
is
thanks
that?
for coming back to Round Rock, Austin, Jim. And I've seen Jim. Jim supported me over the years and he was quietly waiting over there while we were doing the show. But yeah, Jim came out to all the games there in
And
Round
I've
Rock.
already said, God bless you for bringing baseball to Corpus Christi. And as a Corpus Christi native, that was something that we certainly waited for a long, long time. So, again, we got a baseball game about to start.
That's right.
Reid, thank you so much, not only for setting us up here near beer, which is something we always appreciate, but also passing on your knowledge and your joy of this place and this team and this franchise. And as a lifelong Astros fan, thank you so much for what you're doing for these Houston Astros.
Well, I appreciate you guys coming over and doing the show. And look, we're serious. We know that we're in the golden era of Astros baseball and that we really want to take it back, and that's our slogan this year. But from Alex Bregman to Jose Altuve, George Springer, we ended last season with a very bitter taste in our mouth. And what's neat about this group of guys is they're very competitive. They are not cashing in checks. They're not just showing up. These guys know they have a chance to be something special, and if they want to be that and be considered the best of the best, you're now only measured, like the Spurs, on how many championships you win, not how many batting titles you have. And so I think this is going to end very well for us this year if we're healthy, and especially if we get one more piece.
Tell you what, it's a great point, and if you're any indication of the rest of the organization, I have no doubt that you guys are going to go very far. Thank you so much for coming out, sitting with us. Thanks for coming on the show. We really appreciate it, Reid.
All right, you guys be good.
All right, thanks. And for my co-host Richard Oliver and myself, Andrew Brott, we want to give a special thank you to our listeners for listening and following along with us as we continue our pursuit to bring you the best in brew and sports talk entertainment. A couple things we want to put out there for you guys. First, we now have a website. However, get your pencils out because it is not presently our personal address just yet. whatsbrewingsports.wixsite.com/podcast. That's whatsbrewingsports.wixsite.com/podcast. And second, we are now actively seeking sponsorships for the show. If you or anyone you know would like to participate, please contact us at whatsbrewingsports@gmail.com. This has been episode 22. Thank you again. Take it easy.